If you've watched my channel over the last few months, you've seen that you can reverse all kinds of health conditions using quantum physics and circadian biology. I'm very passionate about how we can use these natural modalities to reverse chronic health conditions, but I never considered that blindness could be another thing that we could treat. So stay tuned for today's episode to hear more on that. Welcome back, my friends. My name is Sarah. I am known as Carnivore Yogi. Today, I had the pleasure of interviewing Victor Mifusd, who is a documentary filmmaker, as well as someone who has been experiencing blindness from a very young age. I really think you're going to enjoy this interview, and I think it's an important topic to talk about because a lot of us do suffer with vision difficulties. So you're going to want to jump into the information section. Make sure you're following Victor over on Instagram. He's at Blind Biohacker. Check out his documentary, which I have watched twice now, called My Neuroplastic Adventure. And make sure that you check out his Vision Optimization Summit, where he has such speakers as Dr. Jack Cruz and Matt Maruca, who has also been a guest. Both of those guys have actually been guests on my podcast recently. So please do enjoy this episode. You'll check out that information section for the vast array of topics that we go over in this episode, and I hope that you guys enjoy it. Please share it out to anyone who you feel could be helped by this information. Victor and I both are really passionate about helping people continue to be empowered. How can we heal these things that we're being told are chronic and irreversible through these natural modalities? So please do share this message, like this video, and leave us a comment so it can reach more people. I want to thank the sponsors of today's video. The first one is going to be Optimal Carnivore. You can use my link in the information section and my code carnivore uppercase Y to save 10% on their grass-fed organ complex, their beef liver complex. These are supplements my daughter and I take on a daily basis to keep our immune systems robust during the winter time. Easy and convenient, since we're not big, huge fans of eating organ meats. We still want to get all of those nutrients. So again, use my code carnivore uppercase Y to save 10% on those products. The second sponsor of today's show is Upgraded Formulas. My code at Upgraded Formulas is Yogi12. You can save on their magnesium, potassium, any of their products. And I'm a huge fan of their hair tissue mineral analysis. So you can tell if you need magnesium or not. Here's a little spoiler alert. Out of all the clients and of myself, I have never had anyone come back with a hair tissue mineral analysis test that says they have enough magnesium in their system. So most of us are deficient, and having enough magnesium is vital that our body has to produce ATP and run so many functions in the body. So check out Upgraded Formulas, use my code Yogi12. I'm a huge fan of their magnesium, and their nanoparticle technology really helps with absorption. And thank you to both of those sponsors for making today's show and all of those amazing timestamps that you see in the information section possible. I really hope that you enjoy this episode today with Victor. Again, leave us a comment, share this video out with anyone who you feel it would help, and I will see you guys again really soon. Thanks for watching. All right, guys, thank you so much for coming back and tuning into the show today. I'm really excited about today's guest. His name is Victor Mifusd. I totally screwed that up. And he is just a really amazing person. I have watched now twice his documentary, My Neuroplastic Adventure, and I really just want to talk about his story with him today and all the things that he has done on his journey, dealing with blindness, and just fascinating adventure story talking about neuroplasticity. So thank you, Victor, for being here today.
Hi, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm pretty excited for our conversation today.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I was telling you, we've been messaging on Instagram a little bit. We connected a little around Thanksgiving because Matt Maruca is a mutual friend of ours, and you were kind enough to send over your documentary. And I was telling you over Thanksgiving, my daughter, she's 14 and has pretty profound autism. She doesn't sit still for anything, but she was just enamored with the documentary, just glued to it, was not getting up to go run around or take breaks or anything. So it's just such a beautiful story. And I really, really am excited to have you here today.
Well, thank you. It meant a lot when I read that comment. It really did. And that's the point of the film. It's really to just share that there are options for people. I mean, like what I went through, I felt like there was no options uh, for what I was dealing with. Severe learning disabilities, vision issues, depression, uh, just health in general. I think that's how a lot of us got into this health optimization space. So for those very reasons. So I was lucky to meet a lot of these amazing speakers, doctors along the way, and I just had this story to tell, and I, decided to put it together in a film as a bit of a roadmap for people to watch and see, just for them that there are options. So yeah, that was
Yeah.
it.
Yeah,
Thank
my
you.
daughter was my red pill moment. I always say that she kind of got me into health optimization, biohacking, whatever you want to call it. It's one of those situations where you kind of, and like with your situation, you don't want to accept that I'm going to lose my sight. You don't want to accept that this is just it. And so if you wouldn't mind just telling my listeners a little bit about your story and how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, absolutely. So at a young age, I was diagnosed with a rare vision condition called retinitis pigmentosa. I was about 9, and it didn't really mean much to me at the time because that's just the way that I saw, and what I saw I thought was normal. So um so yeah, but as I got older, the vision loss progressed, got worse, and it got worse when I was 21. So that moment, because I was able to drive at 16, so my eyes weren't bad enough. So I felt like I was still okay. It didn't affect my life. I mean, it was affecting my life in many ways. Like in school, I didn't do well because I was undiagnosed with learning disabilities. Plus, we absorb a lot of information through the eyes. So if the eyes are compromised, your learning is compromised. Is how much information you absorb. So retinitis pigmentosa, my version of it, because there's a few different variations, is basically a form of tunnel vision. So I have severe tunnel vision, and the same receptors affect the night vision. So I'm night blind. So those are the two issues that I have. And it's a bit of an invisible visual disability. So I was able to hide it, because most people don't think I'm blind, or people think I'm faking that I'm blind, but I'm, because there's many parts. Vision loss is a spectrum. So I was able to kind of hide it and kind of get away with it. But then, like as I was getting older, uh, things started to get worse. I think it was accelerated by some medications that I took. I took Accutane when I was 19, which accelerated my vision loss. It started to
Wow.
make my hair fall out as well, and I think I had some other issues like liver issues because of it. I mean, there's a
Mm.
class action lawsuit against that medication now. So life went by, and I just kept running into issues, and just felt like I didn't fit in, and just did horrible in school, and just felt I was so different than everyone else. And when I lost my license at 21, it was such a pivotal time where I had my own car, I drove to work, and then I went from that to having my sisters to drive me around. And it was just this loss of independence. Depressant medications, anti-anxiety medications, and fast forward from that time, 21 to 30, my life was just like, what the f is going on? Like,
Mm.
this sucks. Like, I just felt like crap. These that weren't lasting, and I was like, what's going on, and why is my life like not going as planned. And after everything just hit, like I had difficulty finding a job because a lot of these employers didn't know how to accommodate my vision loss. And it just hit this point where it's like, okay, something's got to give. And then I came across uh, like two people suggested this one book that Dr. Norman Deutsch's book, The Brain That Changes Itself. That's actually where I learned about Barbara Arrowsmith and her work about using neuroplasticity to essentially reprogram the brain over various types of learning disabilities or learning dysfunctions is what she calls them. And I immediately fell into her story, and I thought I could relate to her so much just because of the social aspect of it. Because learning is not just about being in school and absorbing information. There's a lot of like social elements too. What you bring to a conversation, what you do, absorb, listen, share. So all these other aspects I felt were affecting my life socially as well. So as an adult, I went back to school to essentially reprogram my brain and fix these learning dysfunctions that I had. So I went back to school at the Aerosmith School, which happened to be in Toronto.
Yep.
At the age of 32, and I went there for 2 years full time.
Wow.
And it was very hard work, very hard work. It's not like doing arithmetic, or it's just these novel, interesting types of brain exercises that you can tell really challenge the brain, and these should be implemented in like a lot of the schools.
Yeah.
And I think they are. They're putting some of these programs in a lot of the schools. And at the same time, I was dealing with all this breakup and this depression, and didn't want to take the route of taking antidepressants again, because they just didn't work in the past. And again, learning about Dr. Gabor's work with his book called Scattered Minds and about attention deficit disorder. He thinks it's related to a lot of childhood trauma and ancestral trauma. And he also had a different approach by using psychedelics to get to the root of these unconscious implicit traumas, which as opposed to taking antidepressants, that's just a Band-Aid or just numbing.
They never worked for me, and I have so many clients that they never worked for, but it's like the first line of defense. I was put on those medications for ADHD, ADD, and depression when I was like 14, and they never really did anything for me. And it's just like, as an adult, you're like, I don't want to be taking a medication that I don't know is even going to work. And then when you go through withdrawal, because I had gone through withdrawal before, it's like, you do create some chemical dependency on that. So yeah, I completely.
Well, there's like
Yeah.
there's like weight fluctuation with some of these.
Sleep issues.
There's like the anti-anxiety medications
Oh
are
God.
absolute, like that was the only actual drug that I felt addicted to.
Klonopin was the one that I had taken, and that was the worst withdrawal I've ever had to go through in my life. I mean, people have to be institutionalized to come off of those drugs, but the doctors will just kind of just give them to you if you're having a difficult time in your life. It's like, just take these. And then, I mean, yeah, it's literally the worst withdrawal I've ever had in my life. It was horrible. It took years.
I was given them, and the first time I took one, it's a very tiny pill, clonazepam. Maybe it's the same thing. I took one, and
it's the same thing.
It just cut the first time you take it, it's like, oh my God, this is the most amazing thing in the world.
Yes.
And then fast forward 3 months, that one pill that you took doesn't do the same thing.
You need 3 a day.
I was up to 12. And no doctors was monitoring me. And 3 years later, I was like, these aren't doing anything. I need to stop them, but I can't stop them.
Yeah, you can't. Your body can't function without them. I mean, It's a very serious problem.
So I don't know how. I mean, I was just going through such a difficult time in life where I said, well, they're not doing anything for me. And I was told, oh, you need to taper off of them. And they're like, what's it? It's like, I just stopped.
Oh
And I
my
was told,
God.
I, I just stopped. It was not easy. It was very difficult. And the withdrawals were just intense. And
Horrible.
I just, I don't know how I got out of it, but I stopped. I mean, life was messy. So I don't know like what was causing the mess. It was that and just life in general, but I just stopped.
Wow.
So, you know, fast forward all that stuff. Um, I ended up meeting, I ended up deciding to go to Peru to go do ayahuasca in 2011, which was another story of a problem in itself. So there was that. And then there was another, and then I ended up meeting Gabor a year later. And then he
Mm.
invited me to a retreat with him and sat with ayahuasca again. And it changed my life. It's very difficult to work with. It brings up a lot of stuff that was just not really addressed in childhood, and there was a lot of integration. But that psychedelic experience changed my life. I've worked with other psychedelic medicines in with guides in in New York and in various other places, and they just had a profound effect on my life. Um, so yeah, I don't know if I'm kind of jumping around with my life journey, but
No,
it's
it's fine. Yeah, just flow with it.
yeah.
When,
So
so when did Dr. Gabor Mate start to do a little more work with the psychedelics? Because I've read a ton of his books and like try to listen to every podcast that he's ever been on. I just am obsessed with his work. And I remember there was a point where he was kind of skeptical about the plant medicines. And then I think, I don't remember who it was that convinced him to try it. And then, so he definitely, now he facilitates that type of thing.
well, he's not a shaman. He doesn't facilitate. He was hosting events where, you know, people would go and there was a shaman to facilitate the medicine, then he would do the post integration group work. I was doing this in 2012. I don't think he's doing that much anymore. He's just releasing his newest book called The Myth of Normal.
Mm.
So he's not really concentrating on that much anymore. But like in 2011, when I kind of came across his work, and like I said, I read that book Scattered Minds, which was just brilliant. Um, there was a documentary series in Canada called The Jungle Prescription. I think it's available on YouTube, but it was a Canadian production, The Nature of Things. And it was about Gabor going to the jungle and working with ayahuasca and some people and just showing the potential of it. There's some science in there showing the effects of how it works on the brain. And so that was the first thing that I saw with him connected to it. Uh, and then since kind of going down that world, I was connected to people in New York, working with the medicine, and I just came across all these books. There's an amazing book called The Cosmic Serpent, and
Mm.
it's an anthropologist's um, research on, I guess, the scientific approach on how these plant medicines work. It was like the first book I read on ayahuasca that's provides a lot of science and mysticism. Cosmic Serpent. It's by Narby, Norby, Jeremy Narby, I think. Which is if people want to look into that book, it's quite brilliant. But yeah, these medicines have been around for thousands and thousands of years, like psilocybin mushrooms in Mexico and in Oaxaca, and they they can just provide such insight into the mystical quantum powers that we weren't taught in Western school or Western religion. And it's well needed right now because we're in such a mental health crisis that these antidepressants aren't working.
Mm-mm.
These, going to a CBT therapist is is not working. Like we really need to get to the unconscious part of our shadow work and ourself, because we just to deprogram these, the Western mind on ourselves, and it's happening. There's so many conversations that I have on a daily basis of people who have tried it or people who are interested in having these, awakened spiritual conversations of people had these lives and knew that they couldn't live that way anymore and something had to change. And, it was facilitated by meditation, dietary changes, plant medicine journeys, just, like spiritual awakenings, or just attending something like Joe Dispenza, or, there's so many things going on now, and it's great because we are at this point of catastrophe in consciousness, and which way are we going to go?
I agree. We have to, I mean, I feel like there's this big awakening happening right now. I just went through a course with Quantum Health TV and really trying to get certified in circadian biology and quantum physics in a level where I can help other people understand it and start to implement it in their lives. And what a lot of us were talking about in the group and the instructors were just like, people are waking up right now. And I think that they're open to things now that they were not open to, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, just out of, I feel like, desperation of what's happening to all of us, and then the amount of issues that people have these days. It's not, it's not normal. Our parents didn't deal with the same things that we're dealing with. And then our children are dealing with things that, we didn't. My daughter's 14 and there were no children like her when I was growing up. I never saw kids like her ever, that were non-speaking and that just were very profoundly autistic. I didn't see it. There was one guy with autism in my high school, and now her school is like tons of kids like her, and there's a waiting list a mile long to get in. And you just kind of have to stop and say, like, what the heck is going on, and what can we do about it? Yeah.
I agree, because I was that kid.
Yeah.
Growing up, I was always told, like, I don't know what's wrong with you, I can't help you. Or you have this, rare vision condition, I don't know what to tell you. You're probably going to go blind by the time you're 25 or whatever, and just deal with, like, how do you swallow that information?
Yeah.
And, it got me thinking, like, if the body is so intelligent and this universe is so intelligent, like, how can we find it within or without, as in like inner world, outer world, this way of healing the body? You can't get well in the same environment you got sick in.
Yes.
And then you learn what environment means, your inner environment, emotions and what you put in, your unconscious environment, your external environment, like where you are exposing to, sunlight, grounding, EMF, and then the quantum environment. Like all that is a huge factor, and we can't see these things.
No.
With in the 3D world, it's like,
Yeah.
it's so, again, going blind taught me, just because you can't see something doesn't mean it's not there. And
Yeah.
we're such a like Newtonian, we need to see everything to believe it. How does a radio work?
Right.
We know that there's not a band in this little box playing their instruments. So, like, and that works for so many principles. But we just grew up in society where you need to see things to believe it. This doctor is gonna cure you. We were told that the sun is bad.
Yeah.
You name it. And now, like, getting into it, like the power of water, like not all water is the same, not all light is the
Yes.
same, and walking barefoot, and the world is different. I mean, we're just bombarded in EMFs, and they're getting stronger and
Yeah.
everywhere. People are carrying around these circadian disruption devices at a younger age, like destroying their melatonin with this toxic light and toxic EMF. And there's other pharmaceutical companies that think it's a good idea that we need these ingredients to be healthy,
Right.
which is totally bogus.
Right.
So I mean, it's all like that mode seems like it's just for this weird sense of profit, for profit in sick people,
Yeah.
and just to takes away our power. And if we're educated and know all this stuff, it's bad for their business model, but it's empowering for us. And I think the more we have these conversations that you and I are having, it can help facilitate waking other people up. Hence, again, why I made this film.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's so important. It's like, and there's so much cognitive dissonance still. I mean, it's
mhm,
my page started, my whole Instagram started because I was doing like a personal kind of diary of being on the carnivore diet because I had a whole bunch of health issues that just were not going away. And I didn't want to go on medication. And someone had suggested that I try that way of eating to see if it would help. And it did amazing things. I mean, just amazing things for me. Now I'm fast forward, have had to continue. It just was like a starting point for me, and I'm not
mhm.
still like strict carnivore or anything, but I built my platform kind of based on people want to know about carnivore. They want to do the carnivore diet. And it's just kind of evolving at this point into me talking about light and EMF and, don't wear sunscreen and, don't take vitamin D supplements and some things that I'm like coming into tune with. And when I post those things, people get, well, I need the double blind study on that. And I need to see the peer reviewed, blah, blah, blah. Like people have they get really triggered. They get really upset because I think they want to see my page for food. And now I'm like kind of walking down a different path at this point. There's definitely a lot of people open to it, but there's definitely still a lot of, people will be listening to this and say, oh, plant medicine. Oh, Sarah, like, now you're going to be talking about that. It's, but I feel like it's so needed.
Yeah, cognitive dissonance is running quite rampant, and there's certain levels of letting go
Mm,
to get this like long view to really see the bigger picture on how things are connected. And some people are just so caught up in their worldview that they
mhm.
can't believe it because it just destroys this illusion of what they thought was going
Yeah.
on. I mean, it's happening, and I've lost friends over certain conversations that I've had, and I've been so uh, yeah, it's happened to me, and people people can only meet you as deeply as they met themselves as well. So, and if they're not ready for it, that's fine. But this division that we have going on of different beliefs, like what works for one person doesn't necessarily work for the other, and it's just what's worked for me or things that I've tried to get to where I am. I've had to deal with different things, and if it can help people, then that's great. But there's way too much division going on, and I wish there was some more compassion and open-mindedness.
Agree. And, I have so many people that follow me and that come to me and I share very openly on my page of like, hey, carnivore diet helped me with a lot of stuff, but it only did so much. And then when I wasn't paying attention to my light environment, when I wasn't paying attention to like in 2020, I was staying indoors, blasting myself with blue light, you know, never seeing sunrise, and I gained like a whole bunch of weight and didn't change my diet. And
Hmm.
when I share that, I get so many messages from people who are like, oh my gosh, I'm going through the same thing and I'm trying to like do all this stuff with my diet and it's not changing anything. And I'm like, well, maybe we need to stop myopically focusing on just the food and start looking at
Hmm.
everything. Like your documentary, for instance, when you were doing the part where they took your blood and look at it underneath the microscope, and then you lay on the PEMF device, and then it shows that the blood is actually flowing the way that it's supposed to.
Hmm.
That finally got my husband to stop complaining about me trying to turn off the Wi-Fi and like turn off circuit breakers at night and like telling my daughter to wear shoes in the backyard. I'm like, that's why I'm trying to tell you, that's why I'm doing all this crazy stuff. And he was like, oh, wow. So yeah, it's very impactful, the work that you did.
I think people just need to see it. Like if you walk around with an EMF meter to
Oh
show
God,
people
yeah.
what soup they're living in, or that live blood analysis, like this is what's going on. Like you
Yeah.
might not feel it right away. Like some people like, oh, I'm fine, it doesn't affect me. And like, yeah, it might, it's affecting you. You may
Yeah.
not be feeling it yet. Like me, I became a canary in the coal mine. Like I
Yeah.
sense these things, and just because I used to sleep with my phone under my pillow, like my
Yeah.
old school Nokia 3150. It was in my pocket. I didn't know any better. I didn't. Now it's on airplane mode, and
Hmm.
like hardwire internet when I can. And I'm barefoot all the time. I wake up and go see sunrise first thing in the morning, and just get grounded. And people think it's woo woo, and people can think what they want to think.
Yeah.
If it's working for me, and they'll come around where they'll be like, I'm feeling like crap. Like what? Okay, something's you know I'm doing something wrong, and it'll catch up.
Yeah.
I mean, it sometimes happens with age, or it just happens with just this. You add one thing, you just this accumulation of crap, and the body will just shut down.
Yeah.
So, but that's great that I guess that was a big game changer for me. Was light. Was
Yeah.
really. That's how I met Matt. I met Matt through Dr. Jack Cruz in 2017. You know,
I would love to
so
hear about that journey with light and how that's been so impactful for you, because I love watching your Instagram stories. You're obviously not in your hometown right now. You're from Canada, but now you were in Miami recently, and now you're in Mexico. So let's talk about that just a little bit.
yeah. Well, my haplotype. I'm Mediterranean. My parents were from Malta, and they moved to Canada, and I was born in Canada. And the Canadian winters are,
Brutal.
first of all, the latitude from end of September, it just doesn't give any vitamin D, and
Mhm.
it just, you can tell the way the sun looks in the wintertime, it's not the same. And I'd always get seasonal affective disorder. I didn't know why or what was happening, and just knew I felt so much better in the sun. So I came across Jack's work, I think in 2016, and I had already had that book, Light Medicine of the Future by Dr. Jacob Lieberman. He's actually a mentor of mine.
Oh, really? Have a friend of mine who's trying to connect me with him right now.
I can connect you with him.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Cool.
He's in my Vision Optimization Summit. So is Matt, and so
Very
are a few
cool.
other people. So is Jack. I'm in the process of releasing that. It's 11 recorded conversations about how to heal the eyes through different modalities.
Wow.
So that's coming up, and so yeah, it was light was the missing factor. That book was a game changer for me, and uh, you know, um, I wasn't, I just wasn't in a place to watch sunrise because of where I was living, or I didn't think to go, in the backyard and where I was. But in the winter, it's cold, so why are you going to walk barefoot? You
Yeah.
should. So what,
I have a
so
lot of Canadian listeners, by the way. So I get a lot of messages from my Canadian listeners. I don't know how I'm supposed to do any of the stuff that you're doing in the winter in Canada. I'm like, well,
yeah, you can get a grounding pad. You can bring the outside inside. I have two massive, well, one small red light
hmm.
therapy device and a bigger panel. I have a Spurti vitamin D lamp.
Yep.
I have an infrared sauna, and it's, people are like, oh, how are they? Are they good? Like, I like them, but they are not enough. Like
No.
that Spurti thing is like, if I'm ever gonna live in Canada, there's like these full. I'd probably buy these full size, UVA,
Yeah.
UVB.
You know Chris, the owner of EMR Tech?
Yeah, yeah, I know him very well. Yeah,
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 yeah, he's got all that gear,
yeah,
and he
yeah,
lives in Canada. Yeah,
yeah. So it's, that's the level of environment that it's a top priority. That
yeah,
runs light runs the show. All the energy in the world comes from light. and the
Yeah.
sun. So if you get that right, like that's the priority. Like food is second. So I think, like that's where I see, like, I mean, that's what grows the food. So,
Right. Food is light. I mean, it's, yeah.
right. People are now doing like leaving their food out in the sun
Yeah.
to absorb the vitamin D. It sounds funny. Like leave the food in the sun, it's not going to go bad. Um, so it makes a lot of sense. And I was told by a few, I mean, Jack told me this and somebody else told me this, like your health will improve with your tan.
Yeah, it's true.
And I've noticed that. And there's a couple of other things that I've implemented with some supplements, and I do take supplements. I'm a big, like certain types of vitamin E. I'm into taking because of all this. We were raised on all these canola oils and things like
Mm-hmm.
that, which I struggled with my diet quite a bit, and I have done carnivore. I mean, I've spoken to Michaela Peterson, Jordan Peterson, about that, and it's helped me. I'm not full strict carnivore anymore, so I'm implementing some carbs, timing food, and seasonal eating, and but for the most part, I'm always eating meat in the diet for sure. Also, like nose to tail as I can be,
Yeah.
liver, and but yeah, it's made a huge impact. And again, it's like this we were always told like this is bad, like eating meat is bad, or
Right.
standing in the sun is
The
bad.
sun
Like
is bad.
the sun is so strong. So if you fly from, that, up north, whatever, Canada, and then come to Mexico and you
Oof.
jump out in the sun like around 11:30 or 12, you're going to get burnt
Yeah.
because your skin
Yes.
hasn't been primed. It can get primed by the morning sun.
Yes.
So people think, oh, I got burnt, I went there, you got it, like it's such a strong drug. You don't just go and overdose
Right.
with it. So
Right.
people just think it's bad because they got burnt.
Right.
So
I'm trying so hard to have this conversation with my listeners, even with the Sparity lamp, because I've got one. I just actually just did Sparity in my red light right before I jumped on here because I'm in
mhm,
Atlanta. So we have some D right now, but the UV index is maybe like a 4, 3, 4, and
mhm.
it's cold outside. It's like pretty cold. So you're not in the Kinnicky in the backyard right now, and the tan through bikini right now is not happening. But when you're going to do these types of things, even the Sparity lamp, I'm like, you have to see the sunrise. You have to condition, you have to get the hormones online, and you must see some UVA light. Those two things are going to prepare you for the UVB so that you don't completely char yourself. And you need to use an app like DMinder if you're going to be out in the sun. Put in your Fitzpatrick skin type so that you know how long to actually stay out there. I feel like so many people are incapable of having a conversation that includes nuance. So meat, meat, people usually are eating it with French fries and, that have been cooked in canola oils and all kinds of crap. And so we just got to put it into a bad category instead of talking about the bioavailable nutrients, and the sun, all the amazing things that it can do for the body, rather than you didn't prepare yourself to go out in it and hurt yourself.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I got burnt with my Spurdy the first time I used
Oh,
it.
I got a horrible burn. It was awful.
When I was priming myself, when I would come down to Mexico for winters, I would go to a tanning bed. It had UVA, UVB in these beds, and I'd start going maybe 6 weeks prior.
Mm.
And I would remember that when I would start, I could only do, I think I went and did maybe like, I'll try 18 minutes. And I just got a
Ooh.
little roasted. And I was like, okay. So I ended up doing 10. And then the next week I did 12. Then the next week I did 13. And then by the end of it, I could easily do 20 and not get, so your body, like my body climatized to it. And I got used to it because you build this base tan. And so it's, again, it's such a powerful drug, you just can't jump into it. But
Mm.
if you learn how, and the strength of the sun, especially the strength of the sun at the 22 latitude versus what Toronto's, what, 42. Like it's pretty powerful here. I mean, this is December right now, and I can't even imagine this place in June, July.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, I'm sure.
and just know what time you're going out. But if you know all these things and know that it's nuanced and there's timing involved, especially with the cycle, again, the circadian rhythm, morning sun is going to prepare you for, day and then evening. And so just tune in with the cycles of the world, and your body just starts doing itself. Like you sleep a heck of a lot better. Dreaming, I mean, that's another thing that we haven't really talked about, is just
Oh, I'd love
sleep
to.
quality. And
When you have those vivid dreams, you know that something good is happening, right?
I just feel, even though the dreams might be intense and just weird, I mean, I'm not supposed to understand them, or that's okay, because a lot of it's symbolism, and dreams don't really speak English, and even the psychedelic experiences don't really speak English. But that's okay. Like, I just noticed like how good I felt the next day, because I went deep in that dream world, or just got tons of REM,
Yeah.
and it's processed. I'm sure it's processing a lot of like unconscious material. Essentially, that's what psychedelics do. They're like dream inducers. So, doing them outside, or doing them like, you know, batching things together, they can be game changers. And again, this is all just about raising awareness that there's other things that we can do that's not necessarily in the cycle of how we were taught to be living our lives. And
Yeah.
it's showing, because what you said earlier, there's so many, like, how many people do you meet because of your channel that are not well?
So many. Just so
Same thing.
many. Yeah.
That's like, I have so many friends that I follow. It's like, oh, I'm doing this, or mold, or Lyme, and like everyone is sick, or everyone is like getting sick, because they're it's all catching up with them, and it's getting faster because the world's getting more and more toxic,
Yeah.
from a quantum level, or from food level, or EMF level, or people are just disconnected because they think, because they aren't really thinking, I guess, or just weren't really taught how to think
I feel
about
like there's
these
so
things.
much addiction to the technology as well. I mean, what you're saying, what I've been encouraging a lot of my group members, because I have a private group, and they'll get to see this before everyone else does. I always let them see everything first. But, I've been really trying to hit home the point of just don't go straight onto your phone when you first wake up. Like, you really need that time when you're coming out of sleep, not only to go outside and get like the light rhythm and all of that, but to process your dreams. Like, you've slept, your body is recovered, you've had dreams, like you need some time to meditate or just to sit before you jump into the technology. And, we both have our auras on. Mine's always on airplane mode, and I wait until I have a rule. I'm like, you're not allowed to look at your data until 9 o'clock from the night, but you just can't do it, because I don't want to put myself into
That
that,
stress.
like, yeah, the stress of like, I've got to check Instagram, I've got to check my Aura ring, I've got to check all these things. And then I wonder why I'm like, why is my cortisol so high? It's like, well, you're not giving yourself any time to process, to meditate, to come out of that sleep state, and actually to begin your day the way that we were meant to.
Well, that's it. People wake up, they check their phone,
Yep.
or it's either like not on airplane mode, so they check their phone. It's not on. It doesn't have the red light filter, so they're just
Yep.
blasting their eyes,
Blasting. Yep.
tricking their eye clock, saying that it's noon in Ecuador, and
Yep.
then they're getting like all these messages from the billion and one apps that we have,
Yep.
and their emails are coming in, and just is like on. So this cortisol cycle, or this circadian rhythm, all this rhythm gets disrupted. There's so many rhythms that are going on, and people, it's stressful, and that's the way they start their day. So with the stressor, so then that just programs the rest of the day of like, oh, I got this email, I got this, and like, I can't check all that's like, I need my time in the morning.
Yeah.
Like go outside, like not checking anything, and just like I need that, or else I'm just crusty, or just
Yeah.
like it just throws me off, and I don't want that for myself. And like it just, productivity is very important to me.
Yeah.
Dopamine is so important as well, and a lot of our dopamine is just getting completely hijacked.
Just totally hijacked. And that's, yeah, that's one huge thing I've noticed. And my husband's noticed. He's like, you're sharper, you're happier, you don't go into these more depressive states, because I've, like we talked about earlier, was put on antidepressants and medicine for ADD and ADHD at 14, and on medications for years. And seasonal affective disorder, even here in Atlanta, I mean, it gets cold and gloomy and rainy for about 3 months. So not as bad as Canada, but we still get it here. And he's skeptical of everything I do, because I was raw vegan, yoga teacher. I've done it all. Like I'm just a seeker. That's just what I do. And but with the quantum stuff, he's like, okay, you're really on to something here, because you're just firing. Like, we're having these conversations, you're sharp, you're getting things done. And I don't remember you being like, he's been with me for 15 years. He's like, I just don't remember you ever being like that, even in your 20s. And I don't think people really understand the power of these devices, like what they're doing to us. And then on the flip side of that, the power of what we can do just on the quantum realm, just being outside and getting these natural rhythms, and just it's pretty amazing.
Well, it's too simple. It's
Right.
like it's too good to be true for people to actually, it's like, what, just doing that? It's like, there's no way. You need a pill, you gotta, and then that's the ultimate proof in the pudding, and where people say like, what are you doing? Like, you're looking good, or like you're, like you said, your husband knew you for 15 years, so that's gonna convince him. If you can't convince people. They get,
Right. You
the
can't.
saying you can show somebody the door, but they're gonna have to walk through it. Like, you can't say, hey, you need to do this. Like, if they know you and say, oh, you've tried this, that, and the other, and there's, you're not saying anything, but they see the results, then that's, you know, and that's what I've done. I mean, like,
Yeah,
like the way I was from 10 years ago to now, I'm a completely different person,
it's amazing.
and I still have work to do. I'm still learning. Like, there's a lot of things not perfect whatsoever, and I'm not, super, super, super duper, super strict with certain things. This is a bit of balance in life and enjoying things. So, I'm just trying to learn every day and just try to do better every day. So that's kind of where I am.
Yeah. And how has light, I think, profoundly, I mean, how has it affected you the most, would you say, with your vision or with your mind? Like, what's the biggest impact that light has had on you just overall?
I used to wear sunglasses all the time, and I'd always say, like, I could never take them off because I was always told I needed to wear them, and I don't touch them.
Wow.
Uh, and I'm surprised. I was really surprised that my sensitivity to light, uh, so it's possible. Not to mention the power of red light on
Mm.
the eyes. There was a few articles that have been popping up lately. I shared them. I don't know if you saw on my Instagram,
Hmm.
showing the deep red in the morning, 3 minutes a day, whether it's via sunset or via like a light, can reverse, myopia, and the eyes can
Wow.
change. And that's what I talk a lot about. Even
That's
color
amazing.
therapy. There's a form of light therapy called syntonic light therapy that's was existed for, since the 30s, where they shine these specific colors right in the eye with this syntonizer, and it can basically balance. Well, Dr. Jacob Lieberman's newest book, This Luminous Life, talks a lot about that.
Mm.
Basically, like, people are color, essentially color deficient. So if they
Wow.
consume these colors, it's usually part of the rainbow, and you can kind of tell what your color prescription is needed based on a couple of these tests. And that's what's colors done to me. It's color and light is radically affected my mood, my mental health, my overall
Mm.
well-being. And I mean, there's that amazing documentary that was really hard to find, but somebody put it on YouTube, is Exploring the Spectrum by Dr.
Oh,
John Ott.
okay.
It's a little dated because it came out in the late 70s.
Okay.
It's amazing. It's
I'll have to
based
watch
on
that.
health and light. He's got the book too. That was one of Jack's recommendations
Yes, I
about
know that the book is definitely, yeah.
the documentary. The first half is about light's effect on plants, and then he works on mice, and then he works on children. A little bit controversial, but that was it's like your mind will get blown of these kids in these classrooms, and they put these different types of lights, and you can see them, in time lapse, like moving really fast because they're all agitated by the light, or if they put these calming
Wow.
lights, it's that again, if you see its effect, it'll completely change your life.
Well, I
So
see it with my daughter. I mean, it's always been that way with her. Ever since she was little, she couldn't deal with fluorescent lights. We had fluorescent lights in the basement. We could never turn those on. She likes the lights off. If my phone's not on airplane mode, she says it gives her a headache. Like
mhm,
she's just always been very sensitive before I even knew about this stuff.
mhm, mhm.
So she loves my red light. She's always like turning it on and going to sit next to it. It's very calming for her. And at school, I finally have them now where they dim the lights in her classroom and have special lights. But
Mm.
I mean, when the lights are up and finally at home now, we have a routine at night where I'm just reading to her. We turn off everything and we just read, because she was having the hardest time calming down to go to sleep, and she would just get into kind of hysterics at night because she was afraid of what she was going to dream that night. And so we've just been blowing through, all the Harry Potter books. We're reading Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. We're reading all the Chronicles of Narnia. Like we're blowing through all those and just keeping the lights super dim. And it's amazing how she's just so chill and calm. So I don't think people really know. I mean, I have a hypersensitive child, but I really do believe that the light affects our children like hugely.
I leave the red light on all the time
Yeah, I
indoors.
do
I mean, I
too.
change the bulbs because it's filling out the indoor spectrum, and a lot of these lights don't have the red. So, there's always red outside, so we just leave
Yeah.
them on all the time. And
Yeah, my husband's
um,
like, I just can't tell what color my suits are. That's the only I'm like, just
yeah,
go outside. Just take your clothes outside. It's fine. But yeah,
my
it's
my place definitely has a night mode, and I travel with light bulbs.
yeah.
I mean, nothing beats natural circadian rhythm, but you have to see some things at night. So if you can, just change them up. And um, yeah, it's just profound. It's profound once you start changing your environment, all these little things.
Yeah, and the thing about vision that you said is, I mean, I know it's true because in January of this year, so it's hard to believe we're almost finished with 2021, but I didn't really start getting into the light stuff until May of
Mm,
this year. Like I'm new. I'm like a baby with all this stuff. And I remember January of this year, I was trying to read something on the TV and I was like, oh shit, I can't read that. Like, and I just turned 42 this year in June, but I'm like, oh crap. My parents had to get glasses in their 40s. Like, I guess that's next for me. And then when I started everything with the light protocols in May, and then I got connected with Matt and got the raw optics, the blue blockers, started wearing those and changed everything. I can read anything now. Like my vision is completely back to where it was. I'm like, oh, I guess I don't need to go get that prescription. And we've just normalized that, well, you hit your 40s and you got to get glasses.
well, that's the myths that I like to dispel. Like, a lot of people think that the eyes can't change and can't heal, but they can. I guess give the right environment, and they can. Some issues might be a little harder, or more in need of a proper environment for a longer period of time to do so. And like I said, there's profound effects that color therapy can have on eye health, and vision exercises, because we need to exercise our eyes too. And we're just bombarded with you know junk light, or being indoors and on the computer. The one thing that the eyes do need is rest. So there's a technique that you can do is palming, which is use the palm of your hands and lightly press.
Hmm.
Like, there's times where you don't realize that your jaw has been clenched this whole time, and
Yeah.
then you realize the eyes are essentially doing the same things. They always want to like look and see. So there's times where you kind of need to hold them, so it kind of takes the strain off, and
Oh,
that can
wow.
help replenish a lot of the oxygen and blood that's needed. And yeah, I mean, there's an epidemic of vision issues, and I can get into the whole thing of why most glasses prescriptions are bad.
Yeah, I
Uh,
would love to hear that. Why?
Well, it's basically like, essentially like big pharma, they want to keep you buying glasses, so they end up prescribing some of these glasses that have stigmatism compensations, so it keeps your eyes locked in, and they don't
Oh,
essentially move around as much as they could. And some of them have UV filters, which again is bad for the
yes.
eyes. So these things perpetuate the need for glasses. So if you get connected with a holistic optometrist, they can actually remove the stigmatism and eventually wean yourself off, because modern glasses, modern optometry ends up acting like a crutch, or a wedge that essentially worsens your eyes. Thus, why, oh, you need a stronger prescription, stronger prescription. So it's essentially like they're keeping customers for life. There's an
Wow.
amazing, there was a pioneer called William Bates, called the Bates method, which is a form of healing, reversing out of myopia, presbyopia, and other vision conditions by the palming method, and by again working with color therapy, syntonic therapy, and these eye exercises. Sunning is a big technique, is where you close your eyes, look at the sun, and kind of swing the eyes.
Oh,
There's a few different techniques to get the eyes um, moving and working properly. All these. So instead of looking directly at the sun, I mean, your eyelids are really thin, so
yes.
it acts like a bit of a buffer. But you look towards the sun, and you still penetrates the infrared, and then you can kind of like move the eye from side to side to sort of get that. But yeah, I mean, I discuss a lot of this in the Vision Optimization Summit, and I'm a huge proponent of again teaching people that the eyes can in fact heal.
What do
And
you think about contacts? Are the same as prescription glasses,
I don't
right?
wear them. I don't wear them. They cut off circulation. I mean, I used to be a major contact lens wearer. I don't wear
Mm,
them anymore. I've learned to really. Most people don't need their glasses as much as they think they do.
mm,
So there's a mix of finding the right prescription. The other thing with vision loss is a lot of it's unconscious trauma based.
mm.
So the body, there was a trauma, and the body didn't want to see the trauma. So what does it do? It blurs it out.
Oh, wow. I never thought
So
about that.
people have miraculous healings when they do a lot of, from psilocybin or whatever, somatic therapy. If they alleviate the trauma, their vision loss comes back as well.
Wow.
So there's so many. Again, it's you have to change the environment too. But there's an amazing book about ancestral trauma called "It Didn't Start with You," and they get into the science of it. His name is Mark Wolin. Very fascinating book. It was voted one of the best books of last year. He was
Wow.
blind himself and alleviated his ancestral trauma through these techniques. His vision loss returned. I've heard stories about that. Same with Joe Dispenza, people having
Yes.
their vision return. I mean, my vision's been improving quite a bit. My eyes
Wow.
are. I have documentation, visual fields charts showing that my eyes have most definitely improved from what they looked like 20 years ago.
Wow.
So,
That's
and I've been doing a
amazing.
lot, and I'm still working on them, and so yeah, I'm still working on it. I'm still have some things to work on, but for the most part, it's been great.
I do want to ask you a couple more questions on that healing journey, but I wanted to ask you while we're kind of on the topic of like the glasses and the contacts, what do you think of LASIK?
Bad news.
Okay. I thought so
Yeah,
too, but I
yeah.
I heard an interview with the guy from Blue Blocks, and he was recommending it, and I was like, wait, I don't know that that's the best thing, but I'm not as educated on this stuff as you
Well,
are.
the eyes can heal, and it's just a quick fix. And I know some people who've had detrimental effects and went blind from it. It
I've heard
doesn't
that
happen
too.
too often, but uh, it's just like it's just a quick fix that has high risk. It's
Yeah.
not worth the risk, and it's cheating. You can do it yourself, and it's not worth the risk. I mean, it works for some people, but people have night vision issues after it, and like it's not
Mm.
worth, like, as somebody who's legally blind, it's not worth the risk. It's not worth the risk.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's, I've heard a lot of horror stories from it, and so yeah, don't recommend.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard a lot of bad things about it too. And I know Dr. Cruz is not a big fan of it either. So I always kind of look to him for, what does Dr. Cruz say about that? And if he's not a big fan, then I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna go with that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, don't recommend it. The eyes can heal themselves if you look into it. So that's just a quick fix that has potential hazardous returns.
So you've mentioned you have done some psychedelics, you've done some plant medicine, you've really worked on the trauma aspect, which I think is an underappreciated, underutilized thing. What, just besides like doing the plant medicine type of things, what other things have you done? And I know you mentioned somatic therapy as well to work on that, because I feel that so many people have trauma, whether it's direct
Mm-hmm.
or generational. Like my husband's grandparents jumped over the fence in Poland to escape the Holocaust. So I know that there's definitely something there with the trauma handed down. But what all have you done to really look at that?
Somatic therapy has been quite powerful. It's like a body mind centric. Basically, the trauma energy gets stored somewhere in the body, and if you work with somebody, they can locate it and allow that energy signature to get released. Psychedelics essentially do the same thing. The combination of them is really powerful. It's the same. The other thing too is like relationships. For most people were hurt or traumatized by a relationship, so it usually
Mm,
takes a relationship to actually in fact heal that. So there's different types of modalities that I've worked with. It's been a combination. It's hard to say like what one thing worked for me,
so
but
many.
somatic was really helpful. That's what's in my documentary. That was with a meeting with my somatic therapist, um, and it was great. I mean, the power of them both uh, was really helpful. Meditation is very helpful as well. Just learning how to just be still, and um, books are, and there's so many great teachings and of people who have been through it all, and just learn from them, and just it's a journey. And like I said, I'm still also learning and finding ways that in the future stuff comes up again that I need to like reprocess or look at again. So it's been, it's been a few things, but those are the top things for me that really helped with trauma is psychedelics with good integration, a good facilitator. I'm
Yeah.
not recommending just to do them and by yourself, not at
No.
all.
No.
And that's coming, with the legalization and these clinics coming up, and good facilitators and good integration specialists. So that's coming. Um, and yeah, like if you can't or it's not for you, like I'd highly recommend somatic therapy is really powerful. Find a find a therapist that you like, and work with them for a while to help you locate where you're stuck, and they can help alleviate those traumas. And that book for ancestral trauma is a really, really, really good, powerful one. Like I mentioned before, it's called "It Didn't Start with You" by Mark Wolin. It's a great book. We actually spoke. So he's just great. There's a few podcasts that he's been on, and yeah.
Awesome. I'm gonna have to check that out. I just want to give people as many tools as
Mhm.
possible because, yeah, like we talked about earlier, just turning to the pharmaceuticals, turning to the quick fixes. It's shortcuts never amount to things in the end. And I always catch myself if I'm, rushing around, if I've left the house too late and I'm trying to get somewhere and I'm like all pissed off in traffic, and then I try to take a shortcut and it doesn't work. It's like, yeah, that's how it all works, you know. At the end of the day, it's only going to get you so far, and half the time it can cause more harm than good, you know.
Yeah, because we try and do something like a quick fix, and then we end up like screwing ourselves in the long run because we tried to not cheat, but just tried to like do something
Get it
half-ass
faster.
or never really got to the root of the problem. I mean, that's how I've learned my hard lessons. It's just been through through doing things the wrong way, and like, oh, well, I tried to take a shortcut, it didn't work,
Yeah.
and then it'll rear its ugly head and saying, hey, you need to really have attention on this. So
100%. Well, I wanted to ask you what your perfect quantum day looks like. I've been asking that to the last couple guests that I've had on. I'd love to know what that looks like for you.
a perfect quantum day would be, I mean, depends where you are geographically.
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
true.
it helps to have like a summer vibes. um I mean, I'm lucky because I have some places that like my personal is like get up in the morning. I don't use an alarm clock. I I get hydrated. I just get outside first thing in the morning, barefoot. If it's warm, the less clothes on as possible. Try and stay out there as much as possible. Go for a walk. Like in Miami, I was getting up in the morning. I was so close to the beach. I just walked to the beach, just
Oh,
straight to the beach, and
nice.
just watch the sun come up, and just no phone, just chill. Well, I mean, I would take a video to prove that I was there.
I know, right?
Yeah.
My phone's always on airplane mode when I'm taking those in the morning, but I always do. I'm like, yeah, I'm here.
To make people jealous. Um,
Exactly.
so yeah, that's really my perfect day, and like just download the information from the sun, and like when I walk as well, like my mind starts going like, oh, I want to do this or I have to do this, and just try to be outside as much as possible, and that's, you know, and just lead a life with like positive values, and just read and research and just try to find ways to learn from others what they went through, and share. I mean, that's the purpose. That's my life's purpose. It's just to share what I've learned, and be a conduit. You know, like the information is not coming from me. It's just passing through me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. That's beautiful. And, you know, you're speaking of sharing, you've got the documentary I watched, which is my Neuroplastic Adventure, which I loved, and I would definitely recommend to everyone. And did you say you were working on another documentary right now?
I'm in research and development mode for another film. Yes, yes. It'll probably be more focused on healing trauma with psychedelics and other modalities. I mean, I covered a bit of that in my film, and so since I'm more attached to the psychedelic space now, I think I have access to more. I just love interviewing people who are, you know, top of their field, and
Yeah,
you know, my priority is to really help change the mental health situation in the world. Like that's what we need help with right now. So that's where I need to focus by just going through what I went through, and just really focusing on that, on different modalities that people can use to just really get there because we need it ASAP.
agree,
So
agree. And you've got the Vision Optimization Summit. Did you say that's coming up? You've already gotten it recorded?
yeah, all the stuff's been recorded. We had a couple of hiccups in the way with like our website got hacked, and
Oh no.
and things. It was just I was just on a weird server, and so I'm going to be releasing that, and all the talks will be accessible to see, and I'm going to chop some of them up to put them on my social media just so people can get a lot of free goodies, and you know, I just wanted to have people just to listen to it and watch it. So it's coming up, and I'll eventually plan another one if things go back to whatever normal used to be, maybe a real life one.
Yeah,
So
Yeah, that's one thing I definitely miss from all of this is just the community aspect of just being around people. I think some of that's starting to come back though.
It is, yeah. I was in conferences in Las Vegas for the Meet Delic Psychedelics conference, was speaking on a panel there. It was
Oh,
amazing to
cool.
just be, and there was a psychedelics conference in Miami. I went to Wonderland and it was great. It was just awesome to see people and socialize. So that's been
Very
great.
cool. Awesome. Well, this has just been really, really amazing. And I'm definitely going to link all your information below so everyone can find you, follow you. And it's at Instagram, it's the Blind Biohacker, right?
It's just Blind Biohacker.
Blind Biohacker. Okay,
Yeah,
not the.
yeah.
So at Blind Biohacker. And then I'll put all of your other information, any other links that you want me to. But yeah, this has been amazing and so helpful. So thank you so much for coming and speaking with me today.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Thanks for having me. And
Yeah,
feel
awesome.
free if people want to reach out to me over Instagram. I'm quite active there, and if I have any questions, and my film is on iTunes and Amazon Prime. My Neuroplastic Adventure.
Oh, good.
Some
Okay.
some places it's like geo-locked, so sometimes people can find it more in Canada than in the States, but I think it's there. But if anyone's having any problems with it, just reach out to me. I'll direct you guys.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, and we'll keep in touch.
Most definitely.